Hello, I'm Diane Berry, and today is National Homemade Bread Day. And this is one of my passions. I actually have started to make sourdough bread. And it's all started out because I cannot eat regular, I'm just taking it out of the refrigerator so you see, regular bread. I can eat what's called einkorn bread with einkorn flour from Italy. So I purchased this sourdough starter. It's actually a 17-year-old sourdough starter. I got it from Vermont. And from this, I'm able to make this delicious bread. So we start out with 30 grams. You need a little scale like this. You can get on Amazon. And you start out with 30 grams of this starter. And you put just water and flour. And you leave this for about 10 hours. On a counter. You can put it in your refrigerator after that, 6 to 10 hours. And then from there, you take a big, beautiful bowl that I have here. You put it on the scale. And we're going to take this beautiful, it's called levain. And it's basically 30 grams of the starter, sourdough starter, and 130 grams of water. I just use regular filtered water. That has to be warm, about 90 degrees, 95 degrees or so, and 120 grams of the flour. So we put it in a bowl like this, and then to make the bread, after it sits for about 6 hours, it ferments with the sourdough. And then we take, from there, I take 315 grams, again, of filtered water that I've heated up, and we put it into the levain. What's great about this measurer is it actually, you can't see it, but over on the side here, it gives us exactly 315 grams of the water. And you could just take out a little bit to exactly get it to the 315 grams. And then what I do is I just mix that in to the levain. And it gets all bubbly because that's actually the yeast. Because this is actually, you don't have to use any yeast from the store because the sourdough actually has its yeast in there. And then I reset the grams to 0, and then we just add 600 grams of flour. What's great about this is you don't have to measure it with measuring like cups, because it just gives you the exact amount of flour that needs to go in here. So we just need to take a little bit out to get it to the 600 grams. And then all we do then is mix it in. Oh, I can't forget the salt. That's kind of important. We don't realize in any kind of baking and cooking the importance of flour, of salt. Salt and pepper actually, but salt is very important. It kind of flavors all the food. So I put about 2 teaspoons of salt on top of the flour, and then we just mix it. So I think the steps to this, it's a simple process, very easy. Anybody could do this because, as you can see, you just need flour, you just need water, and you need the levain, the sourdough starter. So all you do is kind of mix this together. It's pretty simple. What makes it more difficult for most people is that it's a lot of time that you have to take. But it's love that you put into it. And at the end, you get this beautiful boule of sourdough bread. So basically, we're just going to mix it like this. And then when it gets pretty much like that, you're just going to knead it a little bit. You could take a little bit of flour, throw it down here. I have a couple of tools that I've learned to use that have helped. This little paddle really helps to get it all out of the bowl. We don't really have to knead this too much. It's just a little to get it all together. Now I'm using regular flour, regular unbleached flour here. And that's it. You just take a plate, put the plate on top of it. Let me just mix it inside there. And then we're going to do what's called proofing. So we're going to take this and put it in the oven for 15 minutes. And then in 15 minutes, we're going to take it out and I'll do this little fold. Okay, after 15 minutes, and I forgot to explain, I actually have a proof drawer in my oven, which is fabulous. But if you don't have a proof drawer, you could just leave it on a warm place in your kitchen. So now what I've got is, after 15 minutes, it's rested in the proof drawer. I put a little flour down. I take my little handy tool and just put it out onto the flour. And now what I'm going to do is it's called a turn. So I just cover my hands with a little flour. And I'm just going to turn the bread. I take one side over and then the next side over, this side over, and this side over. And then just basically put it back into this bowl. And then we put the cover back on and I put it back in and proof this for another 15 minutes. Go back and do the same procedure what I just did in turning the dough. We turn the dough for 3 times, so it's like 45 minutes. And then once after the third turn, then what we're going to do is we're going to take plastic wrap. We're going to cover the bowl with some plastic wrap, just the way it is like here. And then we're going to put I just put a nice linen towel over the bowl like this, and then we put it back into the proof for about 3 to 5 hours. Okay, so now we're back after 3 to 5 hours. This was 3 hours, and I've got the bread and it's been raising, the sourdough. So now I just take it, put a little bit of flour onto the surface, and I take it out of the, you can see where it is actually raised by the bubbles in the bread, the dough. So now I'm going to do another couple turns on the bread. And you can feel a little bit of a difference and it's actually warm from the yeast working. So this is regular flour that I have, as I said before. It's not the einkorn flour. Einkorn flour is from Italy, and that flour actually is ancient grains. So it's a little bit easier on my tummy to eat. But this is regular bread. I'm going to make this for my husband so he can eat it. So what we do after we turn it a couple times is we put it into a ball, and then I'm going to slowly pull it down a little bit, and this is getting us ready to actually shape it for our roll, or to put it into the bulletin basket, which I'm going to show you next. So we just pull it along the side and the bottom until we get it kind of you can feel it kind of start to pull on the bottom, and then it's ready. Then I'm going to take this banneton basket that I have here, and we're going to actually pretty heavily coat it with flour, as you can see. And this is the last stage. I'm going to put a little bit of flour on the top of this as well. And we're going to take this and put it, whoops. You can see some air bubbles there. We're going to take this and put it upside down in the basket. And again, put a linen on top. And this is going to again I'm going to proof it in the oven for an hour and a half. I'll probably put it in the oven for only about an hour because then I'm going to take it out and heat up the oven at 500 degrees. So 1 hour later, we'll be back to put it into the oven for actually the baking of the bread. Okay, so now the bread has proofed another hour and a half, about an hour and a half. And we have an enameled pot here that has been in the oven for the last half an hour, 500 degrees. So it's extremely hot. So what we're going to do now is take this out of the Banneton box and put it into this hot enameled cookware. And then we just shake it a little bit just to get it a little even. And then we're going to take a razor blade and just cut this open. So that way when the bread expands in the oven, it won't crack. It will crack just along this area. So we put the top back on, and then we're going to put this in the oven for 40 minutes, just like this, at 450 degrees. I'm going to lower the temperature for 450 degrees. So in 40 minutes, we're going to have our baked bread. So here we are with our bread that's been in the oven for 40 minutes. And let's take a look. What do we have? There we are. So this is what we get after 40 minutes. It's beautiful sourdough bread. So I would wait a little bit till it cools a bit before cutting it. But what I will do is show you guys, just because we're doing this now, I'll show you. What the bread looks like. Delicious. You just can't get enough of it. With some beautiful butter. And if anyone's interested in trying their hands at this, please contact me because I can get you some of the sourdough starter. I certainly have plenty of it. So if you're interested in baking bread and trying your hand at this, it's beautiful to have homemade bread. Thanks so much for joining me in Bread Baking 101.